It's not about the fact that you are a Black conservative. It is not about the fact that you're a Black Republican. It is about the fact that you have trotted out two minstrel show Negroes to try to then play on the emotions of Black men who feel like they're losing their economic edge, right? I.e., why Donald Trump said in the debate last night, migrants are taking your Black jobs, right? You are preying on the economic fears of Black men when your policies in no way align into helping the economics of those Black men.
Let's embark on the Ark Republic to hear current news that's published. More than gossip and chatter, covering current affairs that matter. We talk issues with professional views, all keeping you in queue. We wanted a higher vibe for these days and times, to free the voices and minds, reporting the sign of the times, so all can build, let's shine, yeah.
Okay, so we are back. Welcome to Ark Republic News Podcast. I am Dr. Kaya Niami Shivers, and I am speaking with Dr. Sharice Janae. How are you, Dr. Sharice Janae?
It's been fireworks, baby.
Yes, it is. All right, and it's also been cigars, cognac, and what's the third thing I forgot they said?
Barbershop.
And Congress. Congress, cigars, cognac. Oh, and the barbershop. So for those of you who do not know, Black Republicans, Representative Wesley Hunt out of Texas and Byron Donalds out of Florida has been hosting these community gatherings for people who want to discuss the presidential candidacy and the issues of the state from a Black Republican perspective. They've been holding them in, well, the latest one has been in a traditional male space, which is the barbershop. And Donald Trump was supposed to be there. This is, I think, the second one that has been had. The first one was in Philly, in a predominantly white neighborhood, Fishtown. So this one is actually, I don't know if Buckhead is predominantly white still, but it has a very visible, because Atlanta is predominantly Black. But when I lived in Atlanta, Buckhead was where all the white folk lived and where all the affluent Black folk lived. And Buckhead has a history of trying to really, earmark itself as being separate from the rest of Atlanta. But they had another gathering at Rocky's Barbershop in Buckhead to talk about issues of the state and have Donald Trump. So we're going to talk about what happened and really this thing that's being done by Representative Wesley Hunt and Representative Byron Donalds, and what does this mean? Your initial thoughts on this, Dr. Sharice Janae?
Public service announcement for all Black conservatives. I have no problem with Black conservatives. I'm not a Black conservative. However, I have no problem with Black conservatives. What I have a problem with is this stepping, fetching Black minstrel show that is being put on by these two Black men. You couldn't even get Donald Trump to show up. He dialed in, he phoned in and told you guys why Black people like him. This is after the debacle of showing up to a Black church in Detroit that was filled with white people. I am nauseated about Black men who want and desire power so much that they have no problem sucking on the teat of whiteness to get to it. Byron Donalds wants to be vice president of these United States and would sell his soul to do it. Wesley Hunt is a disgrace to his family because on Mother's Day, I scrolled his page. On his page, he has married a white woman, love who you would like. But on Mother's Day, you are celebrating your white wife to your Black children instead of your Black mother who has given birth to you, who has kept you in safe haven, who made sure your Black behind was okay while you attended West Point, a place where I know they called you nigger repetitively to your face and behind your back. So I am nauseated about the need Black men and their hunger for patriarchy, and that their hunger for patriarchy and dominance will allow them to be puppeted and played at this high level. And then the audacity to then bring in other Black men who run small businesses and try to get them to believe that they are akin to you. It is a disgrace.
That is a lot to unpack. I'm gonna not press back, but I need you to get into the weeds of it. But which one do I want to talk about first? When you talk, Lord of mercy. Okay, what do we talk about? I think this was a really interesting comment when you talk about one's desire to be in this maybe white supremacist male patriarchal space. What is this about?
We've seen, now this is the thing, Kaya, I guess, that we've seen this in the Black community, I think, over time, right? We've had different names for them, right? We've called them Uncle Toms. We've had different naming, Django has has put this on film, right? This is not new in our community. But the problem, I guess, I have with it in 2024 is the idea that it's going to save you, or that this idea is that it is that you are a whole subset of the Black community. That's the problem that I have, because it discounts real Black men that are conservatives, who have conservative business interests and views, because you have now decided to couple yourselves with their interest, and you've tried to say to them that you are the same as them. You are not the same as the Black barbershop owner in Buckhead, because I can guarantee you that Black barbershop owner is going down to Magic City throwing them dollars. He is not chasing after no white snow bunny. But both of you Black men have married these white women and now are purporting yourself to be strongholds inside of the Black community. That's the problem that I ultimately have with this. There is nothing wrong with being a Black conservative. There is nothing wrong with deciding that you have more of a conservative lens in how you see the landscape here in America. I may disagree with you on every point and turn, but to then for these two men in particular to come into our community and say that they're one of us because they want to have power is ridiculous. When I talk about when I talk about Black men and their sickness when it comes to patriarchy, I believe that sickness has been pervasive throughout history. We see it throughout the Black church. We have seen it. We have seen it throughout Black religious organizations. We have seen it throughout Black fraternities. This is not new. However, what I think is very new is that they have not been able to wholesale marry white women at the clip that they're able to marry white women, or Hispanic women that then can pass for white, and then pull them into our community, pull that now mixed racial family into our community and say that they're wholly situated in Blackness. That to me is what I think is very different, that we're seeing now, that has not always been the case. That the ability to do so has not been the case. And these two Black men are not the first. We have to remember that what's his name, who was the attorney general in Kentucky, oh gosh, his name is escaping me, who ran for governor in Kentucky and lost, has done the same thing. This is the new playbook in many ways.
Cameron. You're talking about Cameron.
Cameron, thank you, Daniel Cameron. This is the new playbook. The new playbook is, I'm going to get a Black man who has Republican economic leanings. I'm going to convince him that the only way to get after the money or to get after the dollar is then by leaning conservative. And then I'm going to dress him up, convince him that success will come faster if he marries outside of his race. And then I trot him out to say the things to Black people that I wouldn't dare say as a white man in 2024.
Let me tell you, I hear everything that you're saying, but a lot of people are going to hone on the information that you're talking about, or emphasizing the fact that, or I hear that you're saying that because they married white women, this is what they're going to say, because they married white women and they are purporting this wholeness, or this whole Black family, or this wholeness as a Black person, why is it that marrying a white person will segment them or section them or remove them from being presented as a whole Black family?
I'm glad you asked that question, because it's about choices and it's about what you have access and availability to. Because Kaya, if you marry a white woman and I just and we are being redlined as a Black couple, and I decide that I want to live in a particular neighborhood, and you're a white woman, and I make it so that then the is only going in your name. Now I have access to live in a neighborhood I may not have had access to had I married a Black woman or someone else of color of lower status. Why? Because I can send my white wife into a bank and allow her to withdraw money without being harassed in a way that I couldn't send my Black wife into the bank to do so. Why? Because I can go to a grocery store, or I can go to any retail store and have my white wife go into that store alone and be treated very differently than if my Black wife went in there, or if we went in there as a tandem. It is the idea that by marrying a white woman, it gives you access to a part of America that we know that Black families in whole do not have access to. And what I'm saying is that's your choice. There's nothing wrong with that choice, but to deny that it gives you that access is where I think is the misnomer. To say that it doesn't give you that access, to say that marrying a white woman is the same as marrying a Black woman, to me is the problem. It is not the problem that you've made that decision. It's the problem that you want to pass off to me as a Black woman, that marrying a white woman is the same, and that it affords you the same privileges and opportunities. That's the problem that I have.
Okay, and I think his relationship is the way in which and correct me if I'm wrong, but being this present father, being this present husband, being this appreciative husband, is being presented in the Black space as being an example or a role model in the Black community.
That's my problem. You've hit the nail on the head. That's my problem, because the question is that would you have taken that same stance if your wife wasn't white? Would your stance of being extremely appreciative and showering this woman, would it be the same with your same disposition? And if it was the same, would it be seen as favorable? Would it be seen as something to then champion? Because there are Black men that have married Black women that are extremely successful, that dote on their wives, and that are pillars of the community. Do we see or hear of them? Do we hear about Hakeem Jeffrey's wife? Are we hearing about we heard about Jim Clyburn's wife when she was alive, right? What I'm saying is that would the stand-up Negro trope be trotted out if either one of these men were married to Black women? That's the question. Would the engaged father, would the caring Black man about his community, would any of those be the real tropes if he were married to a Black woman? That's the real question. And so my problem is you positioning yourself as being wholly in the Black space when you have made a distinct decision to have access to a world outside of that Black space.
And I think maybe it's not even just the access, but how much does Representative Hunt and Representative Donalds go into these Black spaces that they say that they're a part of and engage? That's a question, because I don't know what their movements are.
We don't know what their movements are, but these events show us. Because you just on in Philadelphia was out in Whitetown, and we know that we know that Buckhead is the whitest part of Atlanta. So if we can't speak to their personal movements, but we can speak to their political movements, and we can see what their political movements say to us. We can say that Donalds went to the heart of Detroit and had to fill up the Black church with white people. So yeah, we may not be able to speak to what they do personally, but politically they're being very clear about what they're willing to do.
Right. And I think also using in a predominantly white communities in order to draw black Republicans, I think even misses the growing base of Donald Trump supporters. These are working class black men that I'm hearing from. And I might be wrong, but I'm hearing working class black men identifying more. Now, this is just on social media when I jump in and jump out. I might be reading it but I do know that traditionally a black Republican tends to lean more on the affluent side. I had an uncle who was an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur, who was a black Republican. He wasn't a black conservative. By far, he wasn't conservative, but he definitely agreed with a lot of the economic aspect of the Republican Party. There were a lot of things he disagreed with, but that economic tenet, I think he held on a lot, and the fact he
And
felt that.
and if we're talking about working class black men, that is that the economic draw is what we're really referring to. But that again, Kaya, is a farce and it's a falsehood, because it is that I guess is where I'm so incensed as why I'm disgraced, because the tax cut that Trump pushed for in 19 hurt them. It did not help them. And so that, I guess that is why I'm so incensed. It's not about the fact that you're a black conservative. It is not about the fact that you're a black Republican. It is about the fact that you have trotted out two minstrel show Negroes to try to then play on the emotions of black men who feel like they're losing their economic edge, right? I.e., why Donald Trump said in the debate last night, migrants are taking your black jobs, right? You are preying on the economic fears of black men when your policies in no way align into helping the economics of those black men. That is, I guess, why I'm so incensed, is because this is a clear bait and switch, and our black men are falling hook, line, and sinker, knowing damn well they couldn't get close to sniff the white women that either one of these black men married. They couldn't even get close. And so that is, I guess, why it's so enraging to me that you would come into our communities and pick off our most vulnerable with an economic message that is a falsehood and is going to leave them far less enriched economically than they were when you found them.
But let's talk about these optics of this last thing at the barbershop, because the barbershop was supposed to be this place where you had the average black male or the watering hole, the intellectual watering hole for black men to come across all economic, maybe ethnic lines. But really, the barbershop is still considered, in my opinion, a working class space. And I'm saying that because my husband had a barbershop, so I'm not, I understand it very well. Right. And that is, and that's the point. Because
that's exactly why he didn't show up.
Right. And but how leading up to this, Donald Trump is thinking that he is, and really, I think he is a caricature. He's not. He is a caricature of a character. He's using these things of, I understand about being, convicted or charged, and I didn't do anything. Having the tennis shoes, having all these things that are very stereotypical of black male life, right? And then having it in the barbershop, the Representative Hunt and Representative Hunt and Representative Donalds having this tour that is Congress, cigars, and cognac. It is such buffoonery in that, and it's very stereotypical. To then come to this moment right before the debate where Trump could actually maybe even bring in more black voters, and I'm saying that hypothetically, and not show up. And what, in the words of Ice Cube, this is what they think about you. Is
so
in a phone call. So much that's in a phone call. So I wanted to kind of like these optics. But
yeah, let's dissect that. Let's dissect the pieces of that, because I actually wrote a grant back in fall of last year to go into black barbershops and to push these conversations, but not me push the conversations. My husband pushed the conversations, right? Because as a pastor, he is seen as the moral authority. And oftentimes, especially throughout the state of Georgia, where he's from, would have been able to naturally have these conversations because he frequents a barbershop, right? I mean, he goes there to be groomed. And so I want to be very clear that I don't think that the form of the barbershop is problematic. I think what is problematic is the configuration of the chairs. For those that can look at local news, you'll be able to see how they were configured in chairs. They were configured in the actual chairs as if they're getting real cuts in full suits on and mics on, right? So it wasn't in any way a natural conversation as it was alluded to. um it was very much staged and performative in that way. It was not a barbershop that Donald's or Hunt, for that matter, had a natural relationship with. How could they have natural relationships with this barbershop when one representative is from Florida and the other representative is from Texas? And there'd be no reason for them to frequent a barbershop in Buckhead, for that matter. So there's that piece of being disingenuous, or the character nature of what you're talking about. Let's also talk about the fact that Donald Trump doesn't show up, right? And he calls in. And not only does he just call in, he calls in to then tell the audience, or tell those that are gathered in that barbershop, why they like him. So it's not an organic conversation that allows then for these men to engage in discourse over a subject, right? Because as you said, the barbershop is seen as an intellectual watering hole for Black men, where there's often two-way conversation, right? It is not this professorial environment where one person tells the next person, right? It is a organic conversation that sparks, that then is fed, right? And many times where everything that is presented is not even digest or ate, because it's then put in the refrigerator for the next time that you show up in the barbershop, and then it's heated up, and then you regurgitate it or eat from it again, right? And so if we dissect even what happened in the staging of it, in the staging of it, in the performative nature of it, in the absence of the main character, or the main character in Donald Trump, it speaks to me widely to the idea that Donald Trump does not really value Black men, or value what they have to say, because he is not there in any ways to participate in any level of discourse. He is far more concerned with he's far more concerned with having a performative space where he can tell you who he is and why you should love him and why he is the greatest.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sharice Janae. I really do appreciate this conversation. You keep it very honest, you keep it very real, and you keep us on our toes. So until next time.